This is Abe Nadimi, and welcome to the Positively Offensive Podcast. Brianne, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So let's dive right in. We just had a wonderful lunch together, and I stopped you from telling your story then, right? I was like, okay, give me some highlights. Give me some crazy highlights. I want you to just take over, just get started, and tell us your story.
Cool. So I guess from the very beginning, my name is Brianne C. Martin. I'm originally from South Texas.
Did you just give your middle initial?
Yes, it's important. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Victoria, Texas, South Texas, in between Corpus and Houston. It is a rather politically charged environment. I kind of grew up knowing it being rather racist, the kind of Hispanic minority people on one side of the city, kind of the white privileged on the other. And so it was just kind of this thing I grew up with, not necessarily that the people were bad or had malintentions. It was just kind of the way things were. There were even two different high schools, one again for the minorities, one again for the white people. And so I say again, that's just the way it was. It wasn't that, again, animosity, however it goes, but just kind of grew up in an environment. So when I was actually conceived, my father denounced me. He did not want to believe that I was his child, even though my mom and him were dating for like a year and a half. They were the only ones seeing each other. And so as I grew older, I kind of understood what that meant. He was essentially saying my mom was kind of promiscuous, which now hurts, but again, he had his own reasonings. And so as I grew up, I kind of felt this huge void that I wasn't good enough for whatever reason. My dad didn't love me, that I wasn't worthy of whatever it was of having a father or him being in my life. And so as kind of my life progressed, that's just always something I've dealt with, that I'm just not good enough, that I need to work harder, I need to be smarter, I need to be prettier, I need to people to like me more, so that way he could be proud of me, so that way for whatever reason he would come and love me. And again, it was funny, at 2-3 years old, I was wishing on stars for my dad to come back into my life instead of the regular 2 or 3 year old, wishing for a pony or whatever else. So that really defines me a lot, and kind of a major consistency throughout my life. And then when I was 2 years old, my mom got married, excuse me, and in turn ended up having my little brother and sister. So I'm the oldest of 3 kids. We ended up being raised by a single mother. And so growing up in that household, it was pretty exciting. I finally had a family. But as time went on, he grew up in a very abusive family and in turn ended up abusing us physically. And so it was being locked in closets or being spanked for no reason, or just because we were being kids and wanted to be playful, he would get upset and grab us from one arm and swing us across the other, whether hitting doorknobs or, kind of stuff. And so it was really frustrating because, again, I didn't know that it was because I was just being a kid and that's what he, kind of had his own issues and kind of growing up with that expectation. And so I just thought I was just, again, misbehaving. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't being the good child I needed to be. And so in turn, I've been singing since I was 3 years old on stage. It was kind of my outlet. I've always felt just this pain and brokenness, again, since 3 years old, that I just needed to feel loved by the world. So being on stage and having people smile and feel me and just having a way to connect with them really resonated with me. And again, it's something I've done my entire life. And so singing, and again, even just growing up being very religious, the idea of having a father, the psychology of having someone to comfort me and love me unconditionally, so that really set a toll, again, throughout my life and childhood. Until it was, fast forward later, I was about 8 or 9, and my mom got remarried again. And in that relationship, I ended up actually getting sexually abused. It was something my mom had no idea about. Nobody knew. But because, again, we finally had a family knit. Again, my mom had raised us 3 single kids up to that point by herself. And I actually had 2 stepbrothers. And so it was like, we were this Brady bunch. I felt like it was a secret I could hold and I could deal with for the happiness of my family. And so my entire life, again, I've kind of felt like I can take it. It's fine if I'm, kind of the mud on somebody's shoes, as long as everyone else is happy. So I've always just had this sense of selflessness or duty to make everyone else happy. And I enjoy it. It makes me happy to know I can make somebody else smile or, help somebody else in any way I can. But in turn, it's kind of really defeated my own self-esteem, my own self-worth and self-confidence. And so going into high school, again, kind of that same situation of whether or not I was worthy, and being a Hispanic and not having a dad and coming from a family of, very little money, the society, the town I grew up in told me I wasn't worth anything, that I was not going to amount to anything because I had nothing to show for myself. And yet I was dealing with so much turmoil and hurt and just confusion and brokenness that nobody else knew. And so it was very hard for me to make friends, very hard for people to understand where I was coming from or what I was dealing with. So I grew up very fast. I, again, had very little friends. And I knew everyone, which was crazy because everyone thought, oh, Brianne's popular. She's playing sports and, involved in all these different things. Again, singing, stage, you name it. But again, just the sense of no one bothered to stop. Why is this little girl pushing so hard? And why is she shooting for perfection? I was just, I have to be better. I have to be better. I'm gonna mean something to someone someday. And it's rather sad now, kind of looking through 10 years of therapy. It's kind of, I guess, called hyperdepression. So instead of just sitting at home and not doing anything and not taking interest, I'm overly active. Because if I sit with my feelings, it's a very deep, dark, I have panic attacks just even being able to sit with myself. I'm not okay with who I am at this point. And so again, just kind of growing from there. So then I ended up going to 3 different high schools throughout my high school career. When I chose to go to college, I knew I wanted to go do mechanical engineering. And so I actually chose mechanical engineering because my mom kind of encouraged me to go into hand instrument drafting. I went to school at Elko, Nevada. And then being able to just be around different people, being shell-shocked a couple times with the 3 different high schools was really great. But again, just kind of growing. And so I chose to go to Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Their slogan is "Be the Difference," which I felt really resonated with me.
Okay.
And was actually a part of the Jesuit, kind of the liberal Catholic process. So even just going to the Midwest, having a different community, different sense of people, they were really interested in who I was and what I had to offer the world. So even just going to college was a huge, well, who am I, or who even do I want to be? It's kind of a clean slate. I can do anything I want, go from here. I faced many struggles. I actually took Calculus 1, passed no problem. Calculus 2, at the end of it all, I ended up taking it 5 times. I failed twice, withdrew twice, and then ended up actually passing after transferring schools because it was so tough on me. So even going to Marquette University, a private university, I had up to 75% covered in grants and loans and scholarships. Actually, the loans part was only 25%, but I had scholarships and grants covering 75% of my tuition. And then my sophomore year, it was actually 2008 when I went to college, the housing market crashed, government funding got cut. So then it was, okay, we're only going to cover 50%. Okay, well, Brianne picked up a job. Then it was, okay, your sophomore year, it's down to, 25%. Brianne picked up another job. So by my junior year, I was working 3 jobs as a fitness instructor. I was helping out community centers, hosting sports camps, as well as working at the gym. So I was kind of in between all of this, again, pursuing mechanical engineering. I was one of very few females, one of only 2 Hispanics. And so it was very tough on me, again, with that self-worth, is that, what do I have to offer the world? Or am I even cut out for this? And so even struggling with those classes, I didn't even realize that I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, having anxiety, having the inability to even focus or even pay attention in class or studying. So kind of growing from there, I really had to build a resilience. I had the support of my mom, which was great, but very few friends, very few family members who actually understood what I was going through and how I was going about it. And so in turn, I ended up transferring to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, working as a helicopter repair engineer, helping out the Army, which I absolutely loved. Very hands-on, very work boots, safety glasses, getting dirty and working with the mechanics. But it, again, very always much taking opportunity to learn from people. And so even just being able to talk to the mechanics who said, wow, you're the first engineering student to listen to us or to take our advice or ask us questions. It really meant something to them. But again, my approach to life is just always I want people to feel connected. I want to be able to help or even better myself through the help of others. And so in turn, I ended up graduating college from Texas A&M Corpus Christi and kind of joined the workforce as a mechanical engineer in the aerospace industry. And so it was really cool. I got to have this really cool, diverse option of internships. And so being able to just grow from there. And now I'm currently starting my own engineering consulting firm, kind of turning a valley into a peak. I got laid off in January. Okay. So again, just taking that opportunity to kind of move forward and now really kind of fulfilling my purpose and helping others with what I've learned and what all I've been through, taking a leadership, emotional intelligence, self-awareness approach to actually implementation of process improvement, QA/QC, the actual engineering processing side.
Wow. Wow, that's just crazy. So that was a crazy intro that I actually had to step off the camera and grab my notepad so I can keep up with, I think, what's going to be a pretty crazy interview.
Good.
So you went to college, came out as a mechanical engineer, right? Now you've been in the professional world for how long?
About 3.5 years.
Okay. And then now, so you're really, and now you're doing a consulting firm, but you're really open about this stuff that a lot of people won't ever talk about.
Yep.
Right. And why are you willing to share that information?
I think it's very important. So many people, make it big and they just want to be the face of success, but very few people actually talk about all the failures they've been through, or even the, mountains they had to climb to get there. They just want to say, oh, I climbed Mount Everest. Nobody talks about how they broke their foot, how they broke their ankle, how they had to try 4 times before they could even make it to the top. And I think so many people face, the same issues, and they feel like they're the only ones. Even further, suffering from mental illness, as I was very suicidal. There was a lot of times I just felt like my life didn't matter and no one would miss me, no one would care. But again, there's so many other people out in the world that feel just as alone and just as broken and just lowly as the low. So if it's me sharing my story of hey, I've been there, I've done that, like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, just keep pushing, then I think even if it just resonates with one person, then I'm fulfilling my own purpose and my struggles didn't go in vain.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you're right. So many people, actually, I just put a little post on Facebook about this last week. One of my friends was upset and he was really down on himself. So we got on a phone call, one of my clients. And his thing was like, I haven't achieved enough. I have not, I'm 30 years old. Look at what you've achieved. And I was like, but there's so many differences in our lives. Like you're only looking at one thing. You not look at all the freaking failures, right? And what you brought up is so true. Most people only want to be you only see the face of success, right? Or they only want to portray that part. And I think that's so disingenuous to the people that you're sharing the information with, because then you're almost like a Superman, right? Or in your case, a Superwoman. And it's not really the truth. There's all of these things that are happening behind the scenes, and they're not getting a chance to, I guess, experience that same stuff, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting, and that's really powerful. So what does that PTSD mean for you on, like, your daily struggle, on what you're trying? How does that hinder or promote, or I don't even know the right word. How does that play into your goals?
Yeah, so even that, just the fact that you don't know how to address it or bring it up is something that I wanted to have a very honest conversation. Like, you're not going to offend me. People aren't going to offend by asking questions. But a lot of times, because I am so open about it, I've told my professors, or even learning that I had to have extended time for test taking, they would tell me, oh, it's all in your head. It's not that big of a deal. Or I've even had people that I tell, hey, I have anxiety. If, sometimes I need to step away because I'm just going to collect myself. Just please know that that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to keep my professionalism. It's not, again, that it hinders me. It's just something that I need to be aware of. The same as you sneeze and you move your face and say, excuse me, being this, having a mental illness is a very, I don't want to say similar, but it's hey, just everyone FYI, like, this is something I need to do. And to me, it shows, I guess, my own strength to show the vulnerability, because it takes some amazing strength to even admit that you're weak in different areas, or even that you have a vulnerable part of you. And so in doing so, again, having anxiety, I guess in a way it hinders me, is it's very hard for me, one, to focus, which two makes me a great engineer, because there's so many different things going on. You have to be able to pick a little bit of this and a little bit of that and just focus on the importance of different pieces, even though you have 50 million things happening at once. It was very difficult, again, for me to even pass in math classes. But if you were to see me in action, hands-on, actually applying it, you would never know that I struggled with the actual concept of it, because I knew the application. And so there's different ways, and kind of like you're saying, is having a different side, or even just a different perspective. Some people see me as Superwoman, and others say, she failed so many classes. Are you kidding? Like, she can't be smart. How is she going to be able to run her business? But again, just being able to see me in action, or allowing myself to shine in the way that Brianne is meant to live my life, not the way anybody else is. Because again, like you said, we all come from different realms. We come from different sides, different backgrounds, different successes. Some people's success is having a family, others just having $1 million in the bank, and others is, I just want to have $1 million when I retire. I could care less now. Right. And so again, just being able to acknowledge that. And so suffering with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, just acknowledging that I'm always going to feel kind of like I'm not at my 100% performance, but just acknowledging and accepting me for who I am today. I can always get better. Tomorrow will always be there, but letting go of yesterday.
So what are some what are the stories that you're telling yourself now that are so different than they used to be, right? So what are those internal stories?
The internal story is you're okay, you're fine. A lot of times it's just that I have achieved a lot, reminding myself of how far I've come. Because feeling from I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, to I'm enough for who I am, and the people that love me and appreciate me or that I could help will understand that. And so, of course, there's, a million other people that will be ready for me at the next level, but I'm not there yet. So why am I going to try to jump into a pool that I'm not ready to be in? So again, just be very much kind of the self-awareness, where I am now, how I feel. Is it the Brianne that feels that way, or is it my anxiety telling me that I'm not good enough yet? And being able to be okay with, it's okay, anxiety, I acknowledge you're there, but Brianne, by God, she's going to work her ass off and she's going to show you we're going to do it anyway.
Wow, that's okay. That's right, because I think a lot of times it is the stories that we tell ourselves that are the most powerful in either direction.
Exactly.
And so you're doing something that I do every night, which I write down my little wins. It's something that I learned to do.
Right.
Because if we're not doing that, there's always that next level you want to get to, or that other project you want to work on, and then you'll never ever arrive anywhere.
Exactly.
And that's really for individuals that have that kind of property or that trait, man, it'll wear you down.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you actually write these down? Do you document them? Or?
Yeah. So actually, it's funny because I'm big on quotes. I'm big on articles and even motivational, inspirational speakers. And there was one thing that really just resonated with me that said, "Show me your calendar, and I'll show you what's important to your life." And so I kind of sat down and reflected, and actually was this past year where I was like, where is most of my time going? I was always stressed out. I was always frustrated, and it was going into work, which was kind of like a bottomless pit to me because my company wasn't acknowledging me. They weren't appreciative of me. I wasn't getting paid, or, I wasn't getting the monetary supplement I felt I needed. But I was just working hard. I had to prove it to myself. I had to prove that I belonged there and I could do the best and, just keep growing. And then in turn, second was actually community outreach. I was just bending over backwards to help an organization that, again, maybe isn't just in the right pull. Like, I have all the great ideas, but maybe I just need to take a step back and kind of let it one at a time versus trying to attack everything at once. Then third was, my family and friends. Then fourth was my health. So it was, my mental health wasn't there. Like, I wasn't fit or, in shape that I would have wanted to be or liked to have been. And so then I kind of had to reevaluate. And so what I did is have 4 main goals. My first is my health. I can't help anybody if I'm not well. It does no good to anybody or even the world if Brianne is not okay, with myself mentally, physically, emotionally. And then second was, my career. I need money to survive. I need money to make sure that I can have that health, benefit, or again, just to take care of myself, roof over my head, all the essentials. Then third is, my family and friends, because without them, it's kind of, not that it's not important, but if I don't have something to share my life with, then it's kind of, meaningless. To me, that's something that I hold dear. And then fourth, is my community. So it seemed that I had everything kind of, ass backwards, for lack of better terms. And it just being able to acknowledge, like you said. So then every day when I wake up, what is my schedule? What is my calendar? And I look at those 4 priorities. At the end of the day, did I keep my 4 priorities or did they get askew? And so every day I just work on my 4 priorities. I need to eat healthy. I need to make sure I eat. I need to drink enough water. I need to work out. And then again, just kind of following those guidelines. But like you said, it helps to kind of have that list to kind of just check off, because I'm a huge to-do lister. And so I'll have 15 things on my to-do list and I get one done and I feel like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. I have so much more to do. I don't know if I have time. But again, if I'm being realistic with myself, being mindful of my 4 goals in the order of priorities, then at the end of the day, you know what? I ate, I slept, I needed to take a nap, I took a nap, then I'm okay with myself. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you actually gave you gave these 4 compartments, right? Mm-hmm. Health, career, family, friends, and community.
Yep.
And then you said, I'm a big to-do lister.
Yeah.
Right? How do you do time management? That's a big subject, right?
That
lot.
Is.
The more you are whatever successful or whatever that is, the crazier life becomes. And you did that. You're doing this to-do list. And what are you doing here?
Yeah. So for me, again, first thing is checking my priorities. What, does it mean to be successful, to be Brianne? I'd like to be in shape. I'd like to be healthy. I'd like to live a long life, blah, 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 blah. So first and foremost, again, just being mindful of my priorities, and then being mindful of what is going to make the most impact. Is it, that I needed to call my mom? Yes, that's important. But if it's have a conversation with someone who needs someone, like, my mom, then becomes a lower priority. I still love her. It's not that she's less important, but the bigger impact of me and my purpose of that day. If I died tomorrow knowing that I helped someone, even just having that conversation, my mom knew I still loved her, but now someone else can say, go to my funeral and talk to my mom and say, hey, like, it meant the world to me that Brianne took the time, even just 15 minutes or an hour, to sit with me and just hear me talk, or, whatever it is that I dealt with. And so, again, just being very mindful of what impact do I want to leave on that day. So again, the to-do list will forever never end. There's always just stuff that needs to be done, whether it's, doing laundry or making the bed. Some things are just not going to get done, and it's really just being mindful of those priorities, and then really, like, what does it mean to me? Other people may say, oh my God, your apartment's a mess, but then if they don't turn around and acknowledge that I changed 100 lives because I didn't have time to make my bed, then again, it's what's important to me.
That's wonderful. What tools are you using to manage your time?
Yeah, so one is I live by Google Calendar. It's funny, my boyfriend and I even sync up calendars, so whenever I have an event, I'll invite him so he knows on May 26th I'm doing a graduation speech at 2 p.m., blah, blah, blah.
And he declines it or accepts it,
yeah,
or whatever,
exactly.
Right? Okay.
So then we kind of do it that way. Also, I have like a group family chat where, it's just we talk to each other and check on each other.
What software?
It was just a messaging through like our phone provider.
Okay, got it.
But through like my nonprofit organizations, I use Slack and even GroupMe, just be able to talk to everybody at the same time. So instead of having to send an email one-on-one, it'd say, hey, here's a picture, here's the link, check it out, here's my quick update for the day. And then for me, it's actually funny, I thoroughly enjoy hand to paper, like writing. There's just, this old school, I love snail mail. I'm totally an old soul. I don't know where I get it from, but, just being able to like physically check off or see or write down my thoughts. A lot of times too, I'll just do brain dump, and then these are a bunch of billion things I have to do. Then I can start picking out, okay, this is what I needed to do today. This is what I need to do this week. This is what I need to do this month. I'll get around to this other stuff.
Man, that's awesome. And I do the same thing with the Google Calendar invites. Yeah, like I was really like, I think you copied me.
Yeah,
you
might be copying me.
I kind of got a little proud for a second.
See.
So, I kind of want to address the big elephant in the room, which is you're a Hispanic female in engineering, right? That's very not common, I would imagine.
Not at all.
Right? Because I went to engineering school, as you know, electrical engineer. And they were also a handful of women in the whole department. And I'm trying to think back. I think maybe just, again, like you said, one or two Hispanic females that were in the group, right? So what does that mean to you to be Hispanic female in engineering? And, maybe the challenges that you faced, or the good things, or...
Yeah, so I'll probably have a little bit of a story time because it's a really cool story to share. But for one, to me, that means we have a lot of work to do. One, again, growing up feeling I wasn't good enough, I'm not the only Hispanic female that, faces that. And even more so within the Hispanic, community is you have the machismo, you have you're a woman, you belong in the kitchen and look pretty and, be soft-spoken, and you're supposed to be sweet and kind and everyone's supposed to like you. The reality is not everyone in the world is going to like you. Sometimes you just don't get along with people. It is what it is. Move on. It doesn't mean you have to change yourself. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Sometimes we just don't get along. I mean, that's the beauty of different personalities and, just having diversity. But even a step further is, what do we tell our little girls that they're capable of? From the toys that they play with, or even you walk down, toys aisles, it's pink and fluffy and soft, and the boys have Connects and Legos and build stuff and explosions, which I love that stuff. So thankfully I was raised by a mom who said, go play in the mud. It's raining outside. Yeah, we're gonna get dirty, and you come in and take a shower. So it was okay, and I love the rain. I love jumping in puddles. I love, swinging and getting dirty and, again, just being out there and understanding the way the world works and how it does. And I've always, wanted to learn how to make, build a car from the, ground up, rebuild an engine kind of thing.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
No. Still working on it. And so even just having that opportunity of even just something as simple as changing my own oil on my car.
Have you done that before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, because I need an oil change. I was gonna say,
well, please let me know.
I could totally teach you how to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, and so just being able to do that, and again, my mom taught me how to change a tire, how to change my own oil, but it was a goal of mine. I'm going to rebuild my own car, and my grandpa actually had I want to say a 67 Camaro Super Sport, and so I was just in love with that car, like, oh, I have to have it, and so it's still in the family, but again, I want to have, that's my end goal, is to be able to rebuild an engine. I still couldn't to this day, and I'm sure there's like YouTube videos that could help me piece it together, but just being able to have that sense of accomplishment, and so the story I was getting to, I guess, is actually working in the aerospace industry. I worked with two other Hispanic males. One had like a business marketing degree. Another just kind of worked his way up, being able to have the same position as me. And so I had a technical background, the only one with an engineering degree. And so we would go and work on product support, kind of aftermarket stuff, working with supporting support for the airlines and this kind of stuff. So we flew to France. It was an emergency. Like the customer needed this done right away. And we met with some of our French colleagues. On the way there, the guys thought it was funny to joke and say, well, you're the only girl on the trip, so you're going to need to make our sandwiches. First and foremost, my advice to any girl is, one, like, laugh it off. They're immature, they're punk, they're kids, whatever. Even though these guys were both older than me, having a sense of humor helps alleviate, because a lot of times, I grew up my mom telling me this, people are trying to get a reaction out of you. And if you give them what they want, they're just going to keep doing it. If you just say, okay, whatever, grow up, asshole, like, what are they going to do? They're going to keep at it, and then they're just going to get tired because you're going to give them the same response, the response that they don't want. So they're going to keep working for it, but again, eventually they'll get tired and just kind of give up. And so then even further, we got there, and I told them, like, hey, it's not funny, like, leave it alone. A couple days later, I ended up having to drive a couple of our German mechanics with one of our guys from Brazil, and we went out and looked for cigarettes. And so I said, okay, well, I'll be more than happy to drive you guys. I kind of want to see the city anyway, a little town we were in. And so we took a little longer. Cigarettes aren't as accessible in France as it is here. And so we had a kind of a fun adventure. And the two guys, again, from America, my Hispanic colleagues, made it a point to say, what's going on? You're being tossed around. So it's kind of like that.
Wow, that's not very nice.
But from one extreme to the other, like,
right.
If anything, you guys should be, like, rooting for me. You should be helping me out, like, be my big brothers. And for someone who has the past that I have with being sexually assaulted and raped, like, that shit's not funny. And so, first of all, me having the balls to tell them, coming back and saying, like, who the hell do you think you are that you can disrespect me that way? Because first and foremost, I can tell you they didn't respect their wives enough to be able to treat them as women, as human beings, as individuals. But then being able to put my foot down, having the respect for myself to say, I don't deserve this, and I will not accept that from you. Because as people, particularly as minorities, we train people how to treat us. And if you have the audacity, I'll say, being facetious, if you have the audacity to put someone in their place and say, hey, that's not okay, I bet you 2, 3, 4 times won't happen because you addressed it. Now they're afraid, well, I don't want to be confrontational. I don't want to get lectured by Brianne. Okay, then behave. Be an adult. Be respectful. You owe me that, human to human. I don't care color, skin, and ethnicity, gender, whatever. We owe that to each other to be respectful. And so even, again, being in the very first female engineer, a lot of times I'll go and people are just ignorant. They don't know. It's the old white guy that's been pushing the button for 50 years. And I called for an engineer. Then I can have a light way of educating him. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't wear my engineer hat today. I forgot to wear my engineer shirt. Like, I'm Brianne. I have a mechanical engineering degree. I'm here to help you. So again, just having a sense of empathy, coming from a good place, but also being firm enough and showing that I will not be walked on, and I'm going to show you with my results how smart and how much I deserve this job, this degree.
So when this was going on in France, like, what was the reaction of your boyfriend at the time?
Well, he was beyond pissed, and I appreciate it. In the man role of the family, is wanting to provide for me, wanting to protect me, wanting to, like, keep me safe. But at the same time, he knew I was more than capable of handling it myself. And so it was just, I think, frustrating to him that, one, here I am, this caring, giving person that he loves so much, and yet people had the audacity to be able to treat me that way.
Yeah, I don't ever know how when I should step in or not step in. Right, because there's this thing in my mind that if I'm stepping in to solve this problem for my wife, it's like she's not capable of solving it for herself, which is, it's kind of degrading in one way, right? Yeah,
it's called the knight, quarry, or the shining. What is it?
The knight in shining armor.
Yeah, or like the white knight, like kind of savior thing.
The brown knight. So I mean, that's the truth, right? Like, she can solve this problem herself.
Right.
She's fully capable. She's a very strong, powerful person. She does not need me to go in and step in. Now, if let's say we're in a park and some guy is punching her, like, it's a totally different discussion, right? But this is words. And, just an outside showing up would be extremely, I don't know. I just don't know how I would handle that or what I should do on there.
Oh, yeah.
You brought up engineer with soft skills. What does that mean to you as an engineer now, right? Like, you're graduated, you've been in engineering, you know what it's like to work both at the college level with engineering students and also being outside. You're obviously not what a lot of individuals would consider a typical engineer.
Right.
Now, I don't know what that really means, right? But I think there's a stereotype that engineers are very nerdy or geeky, which some of that is really true, and they lack soft skills.
Right.
What do you feel? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it has to do with my past because I've been hurt, I've been broken, and I never want anyone to ever feel that way. So a lot of times it is me going and asking the shy, quiet person in the corner, like, hey, I noticed during this conversation you weren't too engaged. Did you have a thought, or is there something that struck a chord with you? It's me taking the initiative to seek out those that I felt would have been me had I not come into my own. And then even again, just really valuing people in general. I can tell anyone and everyone on this planet, I love you, because I genuinely do. I'm just brought to tears thinking about how some people can treat other people disrespectfully or ugly, just, being ugly people, because all of us have a story. All of us have been through some shit. All of us have felt, not good enough or not strong enough or not smart or enough, pretty enough. We've all not felt enough at one point. And so having those soft skills, again, my own self-awareness, as well as being able to have just very vulnerable, honest conversations with other people, really allow people to feel valued as a human, as a person, much less having input, whether it be a process that I'm doing or an idea that I have. I really want to hear everyone's ideas, because together we can do so much better and more than if it was just me, myself, or that person by themselves.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so what I've been saying recently is I really think that last semester of engineering school, at least the last semester, should be actually spent on these soft skills, sales, emotional, intelligence, how to network, right? I think those are things that would be super useful, because you come out as an engineer, I'm fairly good at that, those skill sets. But even that I've learned so much on, right? Motivation, or how to influence individuals, or and I'm not a master of any of those, just learning a little bit of that. And I'm generally already pretty decent for an engineering type of person. And then you see the other individuals that are so bad at it,
right?
And you're like, how are you going to sell your design
yeah,
if you don't know anything about sales,
right?
Or
well, even that, I'll challenge that and tell you the reason I feel like I'm so successful or have really mastered this is because of Marquette University, or Marquette Engineering Program. So our freshman year, we went in and had an Engineering 101, and the introduction to engineering was a mechatronic, kind of the robotics and mechanical and electrical mix, kind of just guru of the industry. And he came in and trained us to be salesmen, to understand resource management, whether it be money, budget, or funds, or people and resources. And so a lot of it, our engineering 101 was just, okay, you're on a team, you have MATLAB, you have LabVIEW, you have these seniors and juniors at your disposal, figure it out. And so it was real, literally life engineering on the spot. And I couldn't have told you, again, I owe Marquette University for the engineer and the person I am today, because they cultivated the entire person. And then even our sophomore year, we had co-op. We talked about interview skills. We talked about, acknowledging your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses, and not having these BS answers as, well, what's your weakness? Oh, I'm a perfectionist. No, you have a weakness. You need to face it and deal with it as a person to be able to go into the workforce. And you need to be honest, because if you tell people, again, being vulnerable, you're going to be the best, most honest person, they're going to trust you with everything that they have because you have integrity. So again, because Marquette really just focuses on you as a person, helps build it, the engineering program, again, is just far and beyond what anything else I've ever heard of any other degrees. So everyone says, oh, I wish I would have learned this. I wish I would have learned. And I left Marquette saying, I am ready to be an engineer. So again, even my sophomore year, going into my first real internship, was just, I was, mountains beyond my competition.
So when it comes down to your Spanish.
Yeah.
Right. How good is your Spanish? Because that's really important here if you're a Hispanic engineer.
Especially in Texas.
In Texas.
Yep. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's non-existent. I took 2.5 years of Spanish during high school.
Okay.
But again, kind of coming in that group, that environment of the hometown I was telling you about, and even through college, is a lot of times it was very difficult. I wanted to try to have a conversation. I had friends that would try to help me. But one, I wasn't confident in what I did know, so I was very scared to try. My biggest fear is learning in front of people, because I'm afraid of being seen as a failure, on the spot. It's one thing to say oh, I failed, or it's hard for me. It's hard for me to fail in front of people, because I grew up being laughed at, being misunderstood, already being an outsider. So putting myself in that vulnerable spot. Again, I push myself outside my comfort zone. Like if you fall on your face, you fall on your face and you just get up. But that's a huge fear of mine. And so even just Spanish, like practicing around people, in front of people, was just very nerve-wracking for me. And then I would have people judge me when I would try to speak, or I'd use the wrong conjugation of correr, or, you know what I mean? And people were saying like, how would you not know that? Like, didn't you learn it when you were like 5? Well, no, like my family was trying to protect me from the racism that my town had. So a lot of times I'm judged by being less Hispanic for not knowing my language.
Which is really funny because you clearly don't look like a white girl.
Right.
So the fact, and I heard about this and I was really shocked when I learned that a lot of Hispanics, especially I think our parents' generation, would not teach their kids Spanish because they were afraid of how they would be looked at in the community.
Yep.
Oh, I'm not going to end up looking like Lance, right? It's just not going to happen, whether I knew Spanish or not. So I don't know Spanish, but for a different reason. So I'm mixed, right? My dad is from Iran. My mom is from Mexico. I don't know either one of the languages, right? So from the Iranian community, I get, well, why don't you know Farsi?
Okay.
It's like, well, my mom's from Mexico. You know, it's easier to learn the language of your mother if you are in a traditional home where your mother is raising you, right? Or then you're going to learn, you're going to learn the language of whoever you're being raised by. Let's just say that. And so that's why I don't know Farsi. But my first language was actually Spanish. And as I was about 2 or 3 years old, my dad was having a hard time understanding me because he didn't at the time know Spanish. I said at the time because now his Spanish is much better than mine, which is crazy. But at the time, he didn't know Spanish. And so he's like, hey, you know, if we speak to him in English, then I can talk to him too. And so then English so I dropped the Spanish learning, right? And then switch over to English. And then, so my Spanish is horrible. But I'm not scared to go and use it. And what's very different in our stories is I've never, ever felt that my inability to speak perfect Spanish was ever a problem when I was speaking to someone who was fluent in Spanish.
Right.
You know, because I don't know why that's the case, but I never felt like.
Well, lucky you that someone was, you know, patient or encouraged you to continue to practice. Again, it was totally different for me.
Yeah, no. But the reality is that we are, you know, now I wonder, do I need to learn another language?
Right.
Right. So the reality is that in the United States, you primarily use English. In my professional environment, I have to use English.
Right.
Whenever I've gone outside the United States, almost exclusively, almost every single time, those individuals speak English. So it has not been something that I've had to really go back and look at and say, oh, I really need to learn this language or what, you know.
Right. But then you go to other countries and everyone speaks at least 2 to 3 to 4 languages. So I'm planning on, you know, getting more comfortable with practicing my Spanish. I'd like to learn other languages as well. But yeah, even when I started traveling to outside of the country, knowing that other people knew at least 3 to 4 languages was just mind-boggling.
But is that an enrichment or is that out of necessity? Right? So if you think about it, if you are in Sweden,
right,
you know, not knowing English, which is used by everybody else right around you, is actually bad.
Right.
Right? Or, you know, another ethnic group that happens to be in your environment, I don't know, whatever that may be.
Right.
Or if you look at, if you're in Iran right now as an example, learning Chinese would actually be pretty good because now there's this whole, like, you know, reincarnation of the Silk Road.
Right.
And so for them to learn Chinese is actually really, really useful. For me, it hasn't been necessary.
Right.
I know Zuckerberg learned Chinese, and maybe it's because the business he was doing there, he just wanted to learn it. So I'm not really sure.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe about 33 years old or something. So maybe 5-6 years ago, it dawned on me that I was going to die. And I know it sounds crazy, but that actually was like a thought. And it dawned on me right when I was listening to Italian being spoken on NPR. And I was like, man, I love Italian. It sounds so beautiful and all of those things, right? And at that time, I realized, like, that ad, go use that to-do lister, right? That ad, that's one of the, how many different things that I want to learn in my life. Right. Am I really going to have an opportunity to learn it? You know, is that going to be something that's possible? Should I just realize, like, that may be something that is just totally put back on some back burner. It's not going to show up on any to-do list anytime soon.
Right.
Because it's just not going to happen. So I like to jump into your community involvement right now because I know you're really busy in that. So you're doing the consulting business, and I want to learn about that.
Okay.
And I want you to share also your community involvement, because that's where I met you, was at a SHIP function.
Yes.
So can you tell me what SHIP is?
Yeah, so SHIP is the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. I currently serve as the Region 5 Vice President. And so SHIP's mission and vision, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, is to change the perception of what it means to be Hispanic in America. And so right now, the media just shows a cleaning lady or a janitor. And so what we're trying to portray is have the support, the access, the resources, the network. And so we usually refer to ourselves as the SHIP Familia, because we are undoubtedly, unconditionally here for you. A lot of times, again, like family, you fight, you don't always agree. There's a huge diversity even just within our group. But again, working towards the same goal, the mission and vision is to have Hispanics be leaders in the STEM industry. So science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we're in a huge STEM crisis. We don't have enough engineers. Other countries are like doubling and tripling graduates per year than we are in general, much less having the diversity of what our country looks like to actually be in those roles of creating tomorrow and kind of again innovating the future. And so through the role of engineering, whether it be electrical, mechanical, aerospace, or even robotics, whatever the case may be, and even now coding, everything has some sort of technology component to it now, and we do not have the numbers to support, whether it be women engineers, Hispanic engineers, Black engineers. And so SHIP is pushing just again the access, the education of what STEM is, how fun and important and just limitless science and technology and math can be. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just going to ask, what do you think is holding people back? Now, you've been in this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing as reasons that people are not achieving?
Again, I think it's a fear of failure. Moms don't want their sons or daughters to go away from them. The Hispanic culture itself is not at the place where we can cultivate taking risks or going out and having an entrepreneurial spirit. You know what, Abe, go out and do whatever you want. We're going to support you. We're afraid of that because there's the machismo, there's the chisme where, like if someone felt, oh my God, can you believe she's wearing those shoes? And if we're sitting there judging each other by our shoes or by the clothes or, oh my God, he got on the dance floor, he can't even dance that good. You know what, if dancing makes him happy, who the hell cares? Same thing. So what if Maria wants to go become an aerospace engineer? If she can't do it, let her figure that out herself. Who are you to tell her she can't? And so there's so many, again, just this cultural judgmentation that we have going on. And it's if you would just let go, let them see what they can do, let them open their wings. And if they fall on their face, then so be it. How many of us have failed, but we just don't talk about it. We need to show and be proud of our failures and shit. Yeah, I broke my leg and, broke my arm the next day and then had a concussion, but I got through it. I finished. And so even just being able to show that and have that, again, I feel like we don't have enough support.
So so I would imagine a lot of what SHIP is focused in, or at least what you're focused in, would have to be probably at the primary and high school levels?
Yes.
In schools?
Yeah, so we have actually a pipeline. So it's 3-tiered K through 12 initiatives where we do more hands-on STEM activities, introduce the kids to science, technology, engineering, math, what an engineer is, what an engineer does, the different opportunities that they have in career paths, as well as making science and math fun. If they see the applications of it, it's some really cool stuff happening, particularly, with technology advancing, exponentially daily. And then furthermore, being able to educate the parents. Hey, you may not have had an education past 3rd grade, but you can still support your kid. If they're interested in college, don't be afraid. Here's how you can help them. Here's how you can save for college, or here's even free money that's out there. Let's help you get that. And so that's a K through 12 initiative, kind of the see it to be it. We have Hispanic engineers go in, speak the language, bilinguals for those parents who don't even go to parent-teacher conferences, to be able to talk to one another. I look like you. I'm from the same neighborhood. I feel your struggles. My mom sold tortillas on Sundays too,
I love your accent. You all of a sudden sound 100% like you fluent in Spanish.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, the accent is just awesome.
Thanks. And so even that, being there, I feel you, like mi gente, we're here together. And then the second part is once you go into college, whether, and we focus primarily on STEM because we are, engineers and, again, trying to help alleviate the STEM crisis, but it's not just limited to Hispanics. It's not just for engineers. So we focus just on anybody. We want to graduate Hispanics successfully. And I say Hispanics again, anyone. We have people in our organization from all colors, every race, ethnicity, but if they believe in professional development and growing them as a person, personal leadership development, they learn that in college. So as you were saying, it'd be cool if we had a class. SHIP has chapters, which we kind of are little what kind of like an organization within the organization through the universities that we have mentorship programs, we have resume reviews, mock interviews, we practice skills, and they are on leadership boards. So they have a president, vice president, communication, marketing chair, fundraising chair, event planner, you name it, they got a position for it, and they work together. So again, you're going to be on a team where you don't like someone or you don't agree with someone's position or what they're saying to do, and you have to figure it out. The chapter has to move on. The organization is going to continue. And so SHIP is over, I want to say 42, 43 years old now. And so we continue to cultivate. And then the final step is once you graduate successfully with your engineering or STEM degree, now you're a professional in our world. So a professional engineer has nothing to do with the PE license, but you're just a professional in our eyes. So now it's a mentorship. Now it's enough, or it's not enough, whereas most Hispanics would say, oh, I'm getting, a $70K a year, can kick up my feet. This is the most anyone's in my family's ever been successful. I'm done. No, we want you to become a manager. We want you to become a director, a VP, a CEO. We want you to keep shooting and keep pushing yourself. And even if you choose not to go in the managerial route, if you want to be a technical expert or you want to, travel the world, we want to help get you there. And we want you to be the best, again, cream of the crop for whatever industry, because we want to change the mindset, the expectation of what it means to be Hispanic in today's America.
Well, you're bringing up the see it to be it. I love it. I don't think I've ever heard it like that.
Yeah, it's kind of my coin phrase.
Well, I'm definitely stealing that one. No, that's wonderful.
We can share.
And I think now, 2017, that's one of the most wonderful things about the technology, from my perspective, is that we have access to see other individuals in what they're doing.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that is so empowering. And anybody who's listening to this or watching this, actually, who's like, hey, she looks like me, right? Or, has to be able to realize, like, I can do it too.
Yep.
And I think that is the biggest thing, and we have to take advantage of that, and our kids have to take advantage of that, right? We have to get them involved in that, and I think that's where the problem maybe is, in my eyes, of the way pop culture is. I think the way the music videos and everything are, it promotes a type of lifestyle that doesn't exist,
right? Or isn't sustainable.
It's not sustainable. That's right. Like, you can make it exist for a music video, but there's only so long that you can run around like that until you are out of friends or you out of money or whatever the story is, right?
Yep, exactly.
But the crazy thing is, on the same channel, whether it's YouTube or Instagram, you can flip over and see a Gary Vee, or you can flip over and see a Lewis Howes. There's all of these individuals that you can look at, and they'll show you exactly what they're doing. And very frankly, that's how I'm doing with this.
All right.
I look at them and I'm like, I have my own twist on it, right? I have my own stories. I know my own different kind of people. But I can just see what they're doing, and we can mimic it.
Yep.
And that is so powerful. So is there anything holding, well, of course there's things holding you back, but what do you see as something that is the see it to be it type of thing that has been so empowering for you, or has been so successful for you, that you really want to continue?
Yeah. I actually am very involved, again, through SHIP and other organizations, Latinas in STEM, High Tech, High Heels, again, just focusing on empowering women, empowering, again, kind of the underrepresented minority, whatever the case may be. And so, again, just sharing my story about all the trials and mental illness and having, faced that. The number, I think it's like 1 in 4 girls will be sexually assaulted before they're 18. And so many of them become pregnant earlier. They become promiscuous. They feel like they're tarnished and need to cover something up. And so I make it a point to share my entire story, to share all of it, the ugliness, because I don't know, again, my audience, who's keeping what deep, dark secret behind them. But furthermore, I go to these, middle school, elementary, and high school, and just talk to the kids, again, show them my story, all the cool, fun stuff, and do, hands-on activities, but just to get to know them as a person. And there's been multiple times where little girls, and, I'll ask, how many of you guys have a hard time focusing in math class? It's just, very difficult. But, you start blanking out once the teacher gets past problem 2, and everyone starts laughing and raising their hand. And I say, you know what? That's because you're meant to be an engineer. And all of them, like, their eyes light up. Oh my God, you mean I can do that? I can travel the world? I can work on helicopters? And it's just really cool because, again, nobody's ever told them that they could do that, or even acknowledge their weakness and say that that's a good thing, or be proud of them. And so, I've talked to so many different little girls. I actually make it a point to not straighten or curl my hair sometimes and just let it be the wavy Diana Ross thing that it is, which I love my hair, and actually now even learn how to tame and take care of. But a lot of times I'll just leave it and pin a little piece back so they can see my face and it's professional. But then they see me. Oh, she has hair like me. It's okay to not, to be naturally me. Growing up, I wore basketball shorts and T-shirts to school every day. That's just who I was comfortable with. But again, to be able to be that and, talk to these little girls, and there's been several of them who say, oh, I love working on cars with my dad. I just thought that was something the boys did. Or, oh, I would have loved to, see how helicopters work, or, and that kind of, again, just opening up and giving them an opportunity to educate themselves, or even tell them that it's okay that they like certain things or don't like pink. I hated the color pink and didn't refuse to wear it till I was like 14. But again, just giving them that option and saying that it's okay to be who they are.
So I want to take a second and talk about math in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you just brought up math is challenging, math is hard.
Yeah.
So I want to give something that I've learned from tutoring individuals since like junior high, high school, and even into college.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I learned from the way my dad taught me how to do math, which was a really strict and not so nice way to learn.
Yeah.
However, there were some lessons that I got out of it, which was the biggest one is show your work.
Right.
So I'm not actually sharing this to like, you don't know
coach
this.
me, yeah.
but if it's something that another individual needs, or you right there in the camera. So the biggest thing that I learned, and this is kind of how I stumbled upon this,
Mm-hmm.
is that in my high school, I was in the AP, pre-calculus class. I did the AP calculus, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and I did horrible, right? So my senior year, I was really, really into wrestling. I was cutting a lot of weight, and my mind wasn't there, so I didn't get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing kind of happened in, I think it was 8th grade on trig and geometry.
Mm-hmm.
No idea how in the hell like that all worked out. It was horrible. Like I realized I got past the point that I had no idea what was going on. And math is one of those subjects for sure. I guess, yeah, for sure that you can't learn, today's lesson if you don't know a lot of the previous lessons.
Right.
In a lot of way, right? It builds on top of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I learned. And what happened is when I went to college, I said, you know what? I'm not going to take this calculus class. Let me go back. And I don't even know why I was genius enough to know this one, right? This was like one of the brilliant moves in my life by accident, which was I took a college algebra and trig course.
Mm-hmm.
It was one semester. But I basically started back at 0 on algebra and then trig and a little bit of geometry. And then I rolled into that was like, I'd seen this stuff before. I was good in algebra, fairly good in algebra. So I was like, okay, I got it. Just knocking it out, got an A. Went into calculus. And again, I'd already seen calculus, but my math work was really solid at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest lessons I learned was show your work.
Yep.
So very meticulous, step by step, all the way to the paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not at the end, did you get the right answer? It's do you understand the method?
Yep.
Because if you understand the method, then you know what was going on, and then you can build upon it, right?
Right.
And so a lot of people look at an equation that says like 2x plus 5 equals 17. And they'll try to do it in their mind, and they'll get the wrong answer. They don't know why they got the wrong answer. When you look at it, you don't know what they did either, so you can't ever help them.
Right.
So that's the biggest lesson I ever learned, is that if you're in college and you're having a hard time, and you're in high school and having a hard time with math, maybe you need to take a moment and step back and go backward to algebra. Start basic algebra. And if you already know it, you can actually do it pretty quickly.
Right.
Catch up on the nights and weekends. And all of a sudden, all of this stuff starts looking amazing. And then the other part of that is show your freaking work.
Yeah.
So my daughter, now here's the interesting thing now with the way education is in some schools, my daughter has access to math course that's online. It's called, I think, Alex.
Uh-huh.
And so she could do it online, really good math problems, but you submit the answer online.
Right.
And that defeats the whole, show your work, because I want to see how you did it more than what you actually came up to, right?
Right.
And so what I did one day, I was like, hey, show me your scratch work, your scratch sheet of paper. And she was doing it. She actually stayed with showing your work, which is why she's so good in that class. I mean, she always knocks out A's in math. She's one of the best math students in the class. Her STAR test exam was super high. And I think that's where it's from, right?
Yeah,
Show your work, step back. And so anyways, enough with the math focus. So you were bringing up a second ago that parents are, sometimes you've heard or you've seen or experienced. I don't think in your case you experienced, but like parents saying to their kids they can't do something. So I if you're listening to this and you are giving that kind of advice to your kids, fuck you. I can be honest. Like, there is absolutely no reason to ever be telling your kid what they cannot do, especially if it involves just needing to work hard.
Right. Which is everything.
Well, I mean, but look, if my parents were trying to promote me to be a singer, like, they would be really probably doing me a disservice, because I don't even know what tone means. Like, like that.
If you worked hard enough
maybe,
and find the right coaches
maybe,
and resources.
Maybe, I don't know.
And I can tell you that as a musician, because I've known some people that, some people have pure talent and others get beat out.
So how has SHIP helped you and your mission and any other nonprofits that you've been working with?
Yeah, so SHIP, honestly, as you mentioned earlier, almost just kind of educated me and shown me a world that I didn't even know existed. I mean, the organization had been around 40 plus years, and I had just found out about it like my super senior year in college. And so just being able to see people, even if it was following hashtags or seeing them on social media, it was a community, this familia that I had never had before. And so I just kind of got on this, hype of, oh my gosh, if I follow the hashtag STEM, if I follow, women or women entrepreneurs, or even like Vayner Nation with Gary Vee, I mean, then you start noticing these people with similar mindsets, without their badasses doing other things and pushing themselves outside your comfort zone. So then you start kind of creating this tribe of your people. They could be all over the world. And so SHIP really gave me I have the name behind me. I'm a part of this powerful organization with the amazing mission and vision to kind of push forward what my own personal mission and vision for my own life is, what I'd like to leave my legacy behind the world. And so I found other organizations, Latinas in STEM, Society of Women Engineers, partnering with different local organizations that are trying to make a difference in their community. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, now I'm plugging in another resource. Hey, we already have this curriculum. We already have these Noche de Ciencias, these different events and programs. Let's plug it in. You share your content, your training, whatever you guys have, and that way we just start continuing to build upon each other. We're better together than we ever would be separate.
Yeah, I don't know much about nonprofits, I gotta be honest. But what it does seem like is there's so many nonprofits.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, surely, these 20 groups that are trying to feed the homeless could maybe join forces.
Right.
Because it just seems like there'd be so much waste and inefficiency with, every one of them is paying, for example, accounting software charge, right, or, I don't know. What do you feel about that? What have you seen? Have you seen anything in the city related to maybe trying to bring some of these like-minded individuals together under one umbrella rather than everyone having their own nonprofit?
Yeah, so actually nationally, SHIP has joined what's now called the 50 Coalition, or 50K Coalition. So we've joined the National Society of Black Engineers, Women Engineers, and Native American Engineers to try to build the diversity and STEM pipeline. And so our goal is to graduate 50,000 engineers yearly at the year like 2025 or something like that. And so together they've acknowledged, again, like you're saying, is instead of competing against each other, instead of you focusing on Black engineers and us, together, each of us have a collective, you're going to graduate 10K, 20K, whatever, but together we're going to graduate 50,000. It's going to be a group effort, and we're going to build and work together on this. So now, even locally, the SHIP DFW chapter has hosted with NSBE DFW and SWE Dallas to be able to have joint events. We bring in, companies like American Airlines or Capital One, and have these joint ventures where everyone together, these diverse engineers coming from different backgrounds, different walks of life, whatever, and we have professional development, we have leadership training, we have just socials. Let's get together and talk, and kind of hang out within our group, again, kind of building those tribes and giving them an outlet and opportunity. So even now, in the Dallas area, I think even with the acknowledgement of entrepreneurship, with so many nonprofits just starting, is they're saying, hey, there's a nonprofit already doing it. Maybe you can help them in their mission and vision, and add another leg to it, or be as a part of the support system, create a coalition, again, instead of just recreating the wheel and having to fight the same battles that they probably already won, or you could help them achieve much more.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so inefficient. And a lot of the nonprofits are so dependent on donations.
Right.
It just seems like they're wasting so much opportunity.
Right, and they're competing against each other.
And in some ways, they're competing against each other,
right,
which is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, to me, if I was going to run a nonprofit, the first thing I would be wanting to do is go find someone that's already doing it. Like you said, I guess I had no sense to repeat it all.
Right.
So anyways, wonderful. What am I missing? Oh, actually, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I noticed that you talked a lot in the third person.
Mm-hmm.
However, but when you were defending yourself, then you spoke in your first person term.
Yes.
Have you noticed you do that?
Yes, I do.
Why is that? Do you know why you do that?
No, I think it's because I feel more like I'm supporting myself, who I am as Brianne as a person. And then when I'm talking about my struggles, it's very personable. This is me opening up. So this is me to you, when I talk about Brianne and the great things she's achieved, it's a acknowledging that I am who I am. And so even starting my consulting firm, I'm going to have my name because it means something. And for all those years that, I wasn't meant for anything, or all those years that I didn't feel that I was good enough, it's still the same Brianne. I'm still the same person. But now, again, kind of like you're saying, the first person part of me is the whole sharing of this is my brokenness, this is me showing my vulnerability, and the accomplishments and the Brianne that I'm working on and, striving to be is the person I'm still shooting for.
That's really interesting. I think that's, that's interesting. I caught you doing that. And I was like, you're doing it in a very
structured way,
right? The engineering brain kicked in, okay, I got to be this one.
Yeah.
So how can someone reach out to you? Whether what are you doing on the consulting side? Right. Mm-hmm. So what is that about? And then how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So I actually have two separate, my personal brand, me
Sure.
sharing my story, and then the actual consulting firm. I'm actually completing my business plan and really just focusing on narrowing down my ideal clients. Right now, I've come to terms with focusing on small and medium businesses. I feel like the large organizations and companies can hire a fleet of consultants. What I want to do is make a difference in the small communities. I want, whether it be 20 to 50 people coming to work every day, for their lives to become much more efficient and better. I want them to leave the day I've accomplished, or I enjoy coming to work, wake up in the morning and not dread having to get up and go to work. And so creating a space. So the consulting firm part, I'm actually focused on the professional leadership development of the people, communication between upper middle management to the actual worker bees, the people operating and working the day-to-day functions. And so I'm actually currently working on my website. Again, I'm focusing on completing my business plan so I can start reaching out to my ideal clients and go that way. So right now I just honestly have a makeshift business card with my cell phone number, email address, but it's, Brianne.
And are you taking clients now?
Yeah, I'm working on starting up those clientele, just again getting all the paperwork so I can get paid. They know I'm,
Right.
official, blah blah blah. And so I'm right now. I'll probably start out as just being a freelance consultant until I get all my business stuff up. And so again, right now, just focusing on getting the brand out, letting people know what are going to be my services, what I offer, while getting these kind of part-time gigs for the freelancing.
And what's that website? Do you have a website?
No, not
already?
yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So
Yeah.
What's your personal brand?
So my website for that is briannecmartin.weebly.com. But even that, just kind of I didn't know whether or not to pay for a website, if it's worth it yet, or if I can just keep it nice and simple. Again, that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm accepting it.
I would love to go to briannec, .com. That's where I want to go
right,
to.
and that's what I'm working on.
Okay.
It's just, again, creating the content right now. I just don't have the funds while I'm trying to start a business to put funds into that. But yeah, that's what I'm working on essentially. And so even that, my Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat is all Brianne Martin 12. And again, even my email is brianne.martin12@gmail.com. And so again, all my handles, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, I even have a Facebook page for my personal brand. And so that's just me sharing my stories, checking in, letting people know.
Brianne Martin 12.
Yes.
Okay. So let's wrap up.
Okay.
And I still have something you haven't answered. What in the world does the C mean in your name?
Yeah, so it's a perfect closing, especially because we were talking about first and third person. So my name, Brianne, is of Irish descent, and it means strong. It's very unique. Very few people name Brianne. You usually hear Brianna, spelled all kinds of crazy different ways. So even when I introduce myself, I usually spell it out first so I don't get the Briannas or Briannas. But the C in my name stands for Celeste, which is my middle name. And so just acknowledging the Brianne C. Martin of who I've been, who I've, felt, whether again it was that I felt myself or alone or just, not completely, I wasn't who I needed to be yet. It's acknowledging all of my forms from beginning to end and even to further become. So there are other Brianne Martins in the world. I've even, met other Brianne Martins that are singers, but it's the C that really just makes me stand out and is 150% authentically me.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then thank you for being part of this.
Oh, absolutely.
Really
it was a pleasure.
Appreciate your story. And
thank
sharing
you for
it with
having
us.
me.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.